Welcome to the Divine Advantage Podcast, where we rediscover ancient truths for a prosperous future. Experience inspirational stories from values-based and impact-driven business leaders and educational content to empower you to build businesses with a heavenly advantage and change the world. Here are your hosts, Skeldon and Brian Orme.
We made it. Come on, Brian.
The third podcast. Here we are.
Episode 3, and you guys give it up for Brian in the comments because he is turning 50. It's the Jubilee year, 50th birthday. Glory on Brian Orme. They're going to go to Disneyland. Tell us a little more about what you guys are going to do.
Yeah, my kids have the day off. This is 16th of October, and it's like, we want to go to Disneyland to celebrate. And I said, hey, it's the happiest place on earth. Let's do this. It's very fitting.
So this is amazing. It's a happy Friday. Welcome, everyone. We are going to get into an amazing session today with a guest that has just become an amazing friend and advisor and mentor for us. And, you know, it's really cool. On my birthday, which we're talking about birthdays, my birthday, May 24th, we were at NRB this year, 2023. We had a booth with one of our companies called Kingdom Warriors Studios, an epic media company. And I got to interview Sean Bowles on my birthday. And that was like, Sean is like a hero of the faith to me. I've read his books, Keys to Heaven's Economy, that really impacted me about, 5 to 6 years ago. And interviewing him on my birthday really showed that God cares about the intricate things about your life. He cares about the details on your birthday, on any day. He wants to show you the intricate details, that he cares about the things of your life. He cares about the desires. He knows the things in your heart. And it was cool because I was like really kind of feeling alone on my birthday because I was at this big conference with all these kingdom business, Christian business, prophetic people, all these people in the, Christian communicators, one of the biggest conferences in Orlando. And I kind of just felt like, man, I don't even know what I'm doing here. I'm not that connected or friends with that many people here. And I'm somewhat of an introvert, so introverts, let us know in the comments. But I'm kind of an introvert. And so God has taught me to learn to face my fear of public speaking, learn to go and just meet people, ask them questions, learn about them. Because the one thing, if you don't like speaking, ask people questions about them, because everyone likes talking about themselves. So I just ask them good questions about themselves, and people are happy and they end up liking me more. So that's been a key for the introverts for you, if you want to take notes. But anyways, Sean was really wearing a Pray.com wristband, and he was like, hey, he's like, I really love Pray.com. And as I was interviewing him, he even stopped next to his other leader and was like, hey, you have an amazing voice and book. You should be on Pray.com. And I was like, man, like, I've heard of Pray.com, and I know that they're a big organization. They're making some waves. I don't know anything more about them. I don't have the app yet. I haven't downloaded it. And so, later on, we end up finding out about this like Pray.com room, and we ended up coming in there, and it was just really cool. They had food, everyone was welcoming and like inviting. And then I met someone who knew my older brother, which was pretty cool. And then Sean was in there, and we got to connect with Sean more in there. And then, and then I ended up seeing Matthew Potter over there. He was wearing a suit, and I was like, man, I think at the time someone told me a little bit about the story of Matt and Steve and some of the other co-founders and the founders. And I was like, oh, it'd be cool to meet Matt. And I think even I got to meet a guy who basically just shared the story. And it was really the story of how this company was founded, how even the domain was bought, the story of how everything that like in the story was really powerful and really attracted me to, one, the idea of a powerful app, a powerful place to like be a destination for Christians to come together. And then I love technology. I love tech companies, Uber, Lyft, Apple, like all the big tech companies. That's like, I've lived and breathed that and God, like the Bible, I love Jesus, love the Bible. And then tech companies and founders, startups, like that's business books, marketing books. That's all I read. My wife like has to actually tell me more about the spiritual stuff. And people like Brian Orme, they teach me about the spiritual more. But I'm kind of like a business nerd. Like I love nerding out on how businesses were founded, what worked, what didn't work, the rise and fall, like what the good and the bad, dissecting all of it. So anyways, long story short, we have Matthew Potter, the founder of Pray.com, who's just an amazing husband, leader, and founder. And so, Brian, any thoughts before we bring Matthew up?
Yeah, it's been so great getting connected to Pray.com and just the team and the heart. We got to almost die in a pool with Navy SEALs and just to experience all the fun stuff. But it's been really great seeing and hearing the history of your story, Matt, and the evolution of where that's brought you in the midst of building and helping to found Pray.com. Come on.
Yeah, I forgot about the Navy SEALs. That was awesome.
It was awesome.
Well, Eric, Brian, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. Just honored and blessed to be here and be able to talk to everybody. And thank you for the incredible introduction. You guys are too nice. I really appreciate it.
So, Matt, obviously Pray.com is present moment, what you're helping to build, but it's not the first moment in the midst of getting into business. And can you kind of give us a little bit of a flyover of you kind of getting introduced into being an entrepreneur and what that was like and kind of the evolution of seeing God in those moments, those memorials of him showing up and providing wisdom, insight, twists and turns of life and navigating all that?
Well, yeah, providence really is a theme of my life. God has continued to show up in my life and really just feel like so blessed. There's so much grace. I would say grace is another theme, but providence for sure. So I'll take you back all the way to the beginning. It started with a 15-year-old girl who made a decision to walk into a local community church 1 block away from an abortion clinic. And she was 15 and she was pregnant. And instead of going to this abortion clinic, she walked into this church all alone by herself to talk to the pastor about some advice that she wanted for the biggest decision that she was making in her life up to that point. And the pastor ended up connecting the girl to a pastor who planted a 20-person church in Los Angeles. And the pastor in Los Angeles told her that he providentially just met with a married couple who was trying to have children for 10 years and couldn't. And he asked her if she'd be willing to give her baby up for adoption. And she said yes. And this amazing Christian married couple adopted a baby. And so I was the baby the 15-year-old girl brought into that little church. And I was the baby that got adopted. And my dad, because he got me from the church, ended up becoming the head elder of that church and helped grow that church with that pastor from 20 people meeting in a high school gym to a 15,000 person mega church in Los Angeles, California. So I grew up in church with my pastor being like a second dad to me and his daughter, Kayla, being my best friend. It was really an amazing way to grow up. I went off to Boise State University when I got done with high school and followed my brother there. He played football for the Broncos, so go Broncos. And it really was just an amazing journey at Boise State. And I ended up getting to my senior year of college, and I did something super controversial. I dropped out of school my senior year. I started a company in my dorm room that we worked in the real estate technology space, so the software as a service space. And it was super fun, and it started taking off. So I actually dropped out of school 2 credit hours short. I don't recommend it. It's super tough. And bootstrapped this company. And it was, it made Thanksgivings at my house super fun because, my parents thought I was playing in front of the computer all day. And really, I was building this company and didn't pay myself for the first 2 years. And I was going into debt. I had a bunch of debt from school. And it was super tough, and I didn't have a degree. And then I'm going into more debt starting a company. So we started the company on my credit cards, basically, with my college roommate. And it was super fun. The most fun thing you never want to do again. And so Built that company over 10 years. And you know what? I reached this weird point in my life where I didn't really have to work anymore if I didn't want to. And I didn't know what to do. I felt like I lost my purpose. I felt like I was optimizing for revenue every day. And, I called my pastor's daughter, Kayla, and I just said, Kayla, how can I help? How can I give back? And she gave me a couple ideas. Our church was opening a new campus in Santa Monica. And she said, hey, why don't you help me open this new church campus? And I said, you know what, Kayla, that absolutely terrifies me. I'm an introverted tech entrepreneur and I don't know anything about starting church campuses. But she asked me, she said, you know what, just pray about it. Just pray about it and let me know. So the next day, I'm at a coffee shop in my hometown here. And I said, my friend, Steve, walked in the door. And Steve and I go back like a decade. We played on rival high school football teams. And Steve didn't look that good that day. And I just asked him to sit down and grab a cup of coffee with me and tell me what was going on in his life. And, Steve grew up to a single Jewish mom on welfare. He didn't really go to church. He got dragged to church by his grandma to Catholic church on Christmas and Easter. And Steve played sports. He was really great at football. So he ended up going to the Air Force Academy to play football and got super hurt in a training accident at the Air Force Academy. And so he got honorably discharged from the Air Force Academy. And then because Steve's a glutton for punishment, he took a couple months off and actually walked on to USC's football team, earning a position on the team and winning a Rose Bowl under Coach Pete Carroll. And as a homework assignment at USC, Steve started a professional YouTube channel company. And so they ended up building out all the online YouTube channels for Red Bull, Marriott Hotels, Herbalife, the LA Dodgers, and a bunch of other incredible companies. And Steve had the fortune and blessing of selling his company and becoming the 29-year-old CEO of an aerial production and surveillance company. So what they would do is they would film all the major motion pictures. They'd work for people like Michael Bay, Sony, Paramount, and they'd film movies from helicopters, planes, and drones. And then they would work for Homeland Security, FBI, CIA, doing missions. And then as a way to give back to the community, they would transport pediatric patients and organs hospital to hospital with aircraft. And unfortunately, in 2015, on September 11th, they were filming a movie with Tom Cruise called American Made. And Steve's business partner ended up passing away in the filming of that movie. And he died in a plane crash. He was just sitting in the back seat of the plane. They were taking the plane back to the hangar on a routine trip. And unfortunately, the plane crashed in the middle of the jungles in Colombia. And Steve was the 29-year-old CEO of this, massive aircraft company and aerial production company. And he didn't know what to do. It was super tough. And so he threw up a prayer to God in that moment and just asked for some help. And, Steve also was listening to Tony Robbins and Oprah Super Soul Sunday and some of the hippie woo-woo California stuff that we do. And none of that really worked out. It didn't really help him that much until a former Navy SEAL pulled Steve aside and gave him a sermon, an audio sermon from a pastor, and it changed Steve's life. And Steve became a Christian. It was really remarkable because of an audio sermon. It changed Steve's eternity. That's where the idea for Pray.com got started in that moment. And so Steve booked some meetings with some entrepreneurs, and a guy had a book of domains that hadn't been touched since the 90s, and he bought Pray.com. And Steve was telling me this story at the coffee shop. And you know what? It caused me to step down as CEO of my company the next day and link up with Steve. And we started Pray.com. And two other incredible gentlemen who were already starting the company with Steve when I came along was Ryan Beck and Mike Lynn. Mike was the youngest banker to be the top 100 bankers at Merrill Lynch. Incredible guy. He was managing like $750 million of assets at Merrill Lynch. And he came on the team as our CFO. And Ryan actually went to middle school with Steve and, you know, had gotten in some trouble as a kid and went to jail and got mentored by some guys in jail and became a Christian. And when he got out of jail, he couldn't get a job. So he went to a church and they gave him a job being the facilities manager, AKA the janitor, right? And the church gave him a scholarship to go to Bible college. So Ryan went to Bible college and then he got out and they gave him a scholarship to get his 4-year degree. And so he went and he got his computer science degree and started working, building back-end systems for insurance companies and nonprofits. And then Steve and Ryan ended up running into each other just as we were starting Pray.com, and we all came together to start the company. It was really cool in 2016.
Incredible, man.
Yeah.
It's so amazing to see that decision of your mom and just the proximity of here's 2 options. And wow.
And Brian, you know, it's interesting because God put that decision in front of my mom, but he also put that decision in front of me at the coffee shop that day with Steve. Continue on doing what I was doing or follow the path that he had set for my life and jump in with both feet, step down as CEO of my company and go and hit the reset button and do it all over again. And anybody that's built a company or is a full-blooded entrepreneur knows how much effort, energy, and time it takes to start something, and that birthing process from scratch. It's very difficult. But I just felt, I didn't feel, I knew that's what God wanted me to do. So I jumped in with both feet and I was able to merge my passion with my skill in this providential moment. And God just showed up in my life in that moment where I ran into Steve at the coffee shop the day after I talked to my pastor's daughter on how I could help and give back.
That's amazing. And so Matt, talk about, you know, for people who say they do build something that is, you know, maybe not their passion. Like for you, it was this real estate white label, you know, you were really good at it. You knew the tech, you built a team, you know, all the struggles of building that to now it's like a $20 to $30 million company. And even getting to the point where, what were some of the challenges you faced in that? And then next, I would love to learn, because you, after, you know, us talking about it for a while, you have some amazing things that you've learned of even finding a CEO or finding a good operator. And now that you know that's in good hands and actually has grown, because a lot of people, especially I meet a lot of solopreneurs and they're like, oh, I want to do all this and that, but they're always stuck because they never think outside themselves. And it's like a quote I love is, you know, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And you've really learned that it's okay to have a team or have, you know, do something with other really smart people and build it and not feel like you have to do it all on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, something just to keep in mind that I thought about was, you know, we spend most of our life at work. I spend more time with my co-founders than I do my wife right now. And I spent more time with my best friend, Will, and my co-founder at Homestack than anybody else in my life. And so really, when you're getting into a venture, it's like a marriage, you know, and you have to make sure that there's compatibility there and you know each other's strengths and weaknesses. Something that we were really intentional about. Now, at Homestack, it just ended up being perfect, which is very, very rare and never happens. But at Pray, we were very intentional about doing Myers-Briggs and DISC tests and Enneagrams and all these things to make sure that we fully understood this Avenger squad of people we put together, the 4 of us founders, to make sure that we knew how we communicate and our differences and the things that bug us, you know, because very rarely does it happen that 4 people stay together for 7 years. And it's been 7 years that we started Pray.com. And so that just in general is rare, and getting the scale that we've achieved is very rare. So I really give credit to Steve on that, because, when we were starting the company, Steve had the insights on that and the experience previously to do those things. And it's really helped out. It's really helped out with how we interact with each other, and we remind each other of those things all the time. So they're one of our other co-founders. Him and I could not have more different personalities, right? And we remind each other all the time that we're different, and we approach things differently. We think about solutions differently. We think about ways forward differently. But it always ends up getting to the best result because we hash it out and we get to something that we both agree on. And it ends up being better than if it was just me making the decisions moving fast or him making the decisions moving fast. You really build this solid foundation that can be scaled upon. And really, you can't, it's becoming easier to do more with less people, but you still can't build something that's going to last 100 or 200 years with one person.
And so even with Homestack, you guys have had a good team over there to really be able to operate that. Talk about that, like even being a part of, and we've been talking about this, the idea of acquisitions in general and putting operators in place, like, to talk about that, how you can even have a company and put people in place and really just advise it from the 30,000 foot view, and it still runs successful without you being in it.
Yeah, absolutely. So as long as incentives are aligned, right, things should operate properly, and you give people agency and control. It's always hard for me, at least, to be able to give up control. But if you give the people that you're putting in place control and agency, it's not something where you're expecting them to hit status quo. I would never put someone in who's serial CEO that's supposed to hit 3 to 6% growth year over year. Will and my co-founder Will, I spent a lot of time with him when I was making my decision and moved over. I mean, I made my decision, but I spent a lot of time with him going over how to scale, how I thought the vision of moving forward would be. And we worked on that together. We put that in place together. It is a lot of work. I mean, it's not just, I'm going to pay this person a lot of money and they're going to figure it out. No, that never works in my experience. You need to be able to spend the time, effort, and energy into that team, into those people, and meet with them. We meet once a quarter right now and go through the goals, the KPIs, what we want to hit, what's working, what's not working, all of those good things. And it takes a long time. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of effort. And those people, you also have to put through all of those personality tests and things too, and know what their differences are. And Will has done an incredible job. Founder divorce is the number one reason companies die, right? And I don't say that we divorced, I still help him every quarter. I'm still thinking about those things, and I'm not involved in the day-to-day activities, but we built an incredible thing. We built over 7,000 apps in the App Store for all the major real estate companies in the United States. And that company has thrived. When Will took over, he's grown it more than I could have ever imagined growing it at that time. And he's done an incredible job of hiring key leaders on his team. And we talk about those things. We think through the problems together in our quarterly meetings. And that's really what it takes. It does take a lot of time. You have to document things. In the very beginning, you're just figuring it out. What's going to work? What's not going to work? And you document things along the way. My recommendation is always, you should not spend 6 months or more in any single department if it's successful. Bring in an expert. And those experts don't over-index on fancy backgrounds and degrees. This is something that I made a mistake in. I put a lot of weight on, the big tech company stickers on people's resumes, when The best people I've found are super scrappy. They built things from scratch. They built departments from scratch in those companies. They don't necessarily have the fancy backgrounds, and they have a chip on their shoulder and they got something to prove. And those people are gold. Those are the ones that are going to want to grow things by 20x. They're not thinking, let's hit status quo and grow 6% and just keep up with inflation or whatever it is, right? Like, these people, they've got their mindset. They came in to change things. They came in to make a name for themselves and their teams, and people follow them around. They love it. They're magnetic. They have these incredible personalities. So those are the people that I love to hire. That we say put in place. I'm not going to say put in place. We enable them to have agency and to grow something that's theirs and thrive. And when you do that with people, they will just take it to the moon. And that's what you want to see.
That's so good, man. I mean, look at the life of Jesus. He picks these 12 guys. And like, what I'm hearing from you is I have powerful conversations. I'm showing up in each of my roles powerfully, defining what the relationship is, expectations. And I think sometimes, whether it's a church, a business, some type of organization, a lot of times that's just not present. There's a lack of definition. People don't know where they fit. And so the momentum and trajectory is really taken off course because we don't know where we're going and really what we're doing. That, to me, requires a firm foundation and identity to have powerful conversations and powerful definition. What was that, that revelation for you? Was it a moment? I mean, obviously we're all progressing in a relationship with God, but was there kind of a moment for you that there was a shift into this is who I am? And then that became like almost like an internal infrastructure to help you build.
This is going to sound really counterintuitive, Brian, but empower people to make mistakes. Mm-hmm. The most powerful thing that we did is Steve and I walked into the office one day and we wrote on the whiteboard the 3 biggest mistakes that we made, and we put our names next to them. And we asked everybody else to come and do that too. And that was super powerful because people will hide things. They'll hide mistakes that they made. And you could go 6 months with something burning over here and you don't even know about it because somebody's worried they're going to get fired if they made a mistake. And when you're tip of the spear, when you're building something new or you're inventing a new department within a company or a new product line or new, whatever it is, there's going to be mistakes. There's going to be things that go wrong. If you can empower people to make those mistakes where they're not afraid, you're going to get incredible results. And so that's something we did that was one of these super powerful moments. I think I put down, I blew a 6-figure thing on something, and Steve put in, he made this big mistake in some people that a vendor that we hired, right? And there were these things that we put that were big mistakes. And we wanted everybody to feel empowered. And so every single employee came in and wrote down their 3 biggest mistakes and put their name next to it. And it was eye-opening. It was incredible because now we had a conversation about it. Now everybody in the company is like, well, wait, I can help with that mistake. I can do that. Like, how did we not know about these? It's okay. It's okay. We're going to make mistakes. Bringing them up and letting other people in the company know about them who can help you with those things, who can help you with a way forward, who have dealt with those problems, some of them complex, some of them not at other companies, I think is really the most powerful thing you can do at your organization. I would implore you to do it and tell me what the results are. And if the results are not short of incredible, I would be hugely surprised. I'll take you out to dinner because really, if you have an organization that's more than 10 people or even five people, and they can tell their biggest mistakes on the board and you can talk and walk through those and have those open and candid conversations, I think those are the things that we're not doing in companies and churches. Big mistakes. let's talk about them. Let's have open, transparent, candid conversations. Hey, senior pastor, I don't know what I'm doing. I have no vision. Or the last thing that we had a vision for, we did it. There's no big vision now. Or CEO, I'm scared to tell you I made a mistake that I'm going to get fired. And as the organization grows, those things grow exponentially as well. And you become more and more removed. And so you don't notice it as much the larger the organization.
That's huge. So you guys listening on pray.com, man, this is amazing. And subscribe to our free newsletter where you can grow your business and grow your ministry. Brian, do you want to share more about some of the newsletter gold that you're putting in there?
Yeah, we're going to be talking about, it's world-class content, guys, seriously, helping you to build a business, an organization, scale it. There's going to be lots of helpful things. And so definitely check it out. It is truly free. There's no hidden, like we're going to upsell you something. It's just free content that's going to be valuable for you.
Awesome, man. So let's, Brian, where do you want to go? Matt has said so many different things, and it was cool. Just, even with the whole Navy SEAL thing, getting to spend some time with you guys out there. And we were talking about like being calm, I was a former military, so I kind of knew a little bit about this, like slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And really during chaotic situations or stressful situations, kind of like what you're talking about, where you're scared to tell your boss, like, hey, I messed up. So you get stress, and that stress can cause it's proven scientifically to be able to cause things that end up causing cancer and all this crazy stuff because of stress and because of anxiety and because of we feel fear. And it really comes back to fear, shame, and guilt, punishment. And sometimes it's like triggers from when we were a kid, and maybe our dad got angry because we spilt the milk, and your dad got angry, or someone someone that was over you got angry, and now you think that every other boss is going to be like that. So, how many times do we look at God and like how we think a parental figure was if they, misrepresented God, and now we think like our bosses are like that, we think God's like that, and how much does that hurt our relationship when we still see in our old nature and in shame and guilt, and not in love and forgiveness and like, hey, Matt, I'm sorry, this is what happened. I thought this would be good. I was doing it on behalf of the company, but I screwed this business deal up.
Yeah. Eric, what you said is super powerful. Stress actually kills. It's insane. It kills. It's bad, right? Do you guys know the number one day for heart attacks?
9/11?
No, the number one day is Mondays. Mondays at 8 to 9 a.m. when people are starting work after a great weekend. The most stressful day, you got to wake up after having a good weekend and go back to work. So something that we did is we have an incredible cheers meeting Monday mornings. Who wouldn't want to wake up to being cheersed for something they did last week? So stress is terrible. It is destructive for a team. It also kills you. So as leaders, do something that gets your team started off on the week, that's something they can look forward to for the whole week, something that energizes your team, that gets them excited to work, instead of something that is bringing in more stress. Because you can go look it up, but there's all these research studies that have been done when heart attacks happen the most. It's always Monday morning between 8 and 9 a.m. And I'm correlating that to going to work. But you can correlate it any way you want. It's most likely going to work because it's the most stressful, anxious thing that you're going to do. So setting up ways to lead your team, whether it's a church, whether it's a company, where you're going to get an extra 1% to 2%, maybe 5% better output because you learned this and you took this away from Brian and Eric and from the newsletter, it's going to compound. I think the Japanese call it Kaizen, or Kaizen. And you just get those 1% wins every day. And if at the end of the year, you're at 365% better if you get 1% better every single day.
Come on, put Kaizen in the comments. And culture, talking about culture and heaven culture, Brian, you can share more on heaven culture and kingdom culture. and even break that down. Like, what is that? Because a lot of people don't know what that is. But Matthew, you guys have really modeled this really well in bringing kingdom culture, honoring people on your team. Everyone, you guys have a culture of honor where everyone's just giving honor to the other person, lifting each other up. And, in the tech world, you really learn about even some of these non-Christian founders that are actually also modeling this kingdom principle of like a culture where they're basically creating some fun ping pong tables, and like they provide the food, they have good food and good healthy food and drinks and available. And like, they're just like basically they're spending money on their staff, they're spending money on their team, they're spending money on their developers. And they're knowing that if they can keep them happy and in a state of enjoyment, that they can produce better for the company. And you guys are modeling that very well. And I think a lot of churches don't, because a lot of churches are actually like, everyone's volunteer, nobody's getting paid, so they're stressed because they're not paying their bills, or their youth pastor making $2,000-3,000 a month and they're struggling, but they're doing it for the kingdom. But even in businesses, I think kingdom people need to pioneer the same thing as tech founders pioneer, as like, we're going to take care of our staff, we're going to be the best, we're going to and I've really been praying about that because I think it is a big thing. And if the world system is doing it and they're doing it well, we can't really knock at them, because they actually are taking care of their staff and they're creating pretty good cultures and companies, even if they aren't kingdom necessarily culture, that it is a kingdom principle.
Yeah, Eric, I'm a big believer in paying people their value and their worth. When, for me, it's really hard if a church is paying somebody so low that they're struggling and nervous about their bills and their groceries and their mortgage. Like, you should pay people market rates, right? You should pay people what they deserve to be paid. Pastors have the toughest job in the world. When I talk to some of these pastors, anxiety, depression rates in pastors are higher than most people. They're taking on the problems and the issues that everyone has in the congregation, making it their own and pouring out into everyone's lives all the time. And they don't get a day off. They're every day. They're either going to hospitals, helping people who are dying. They're doing weddings. They're studying to do a service. And then everyone's looking at them in a fishbowl. So if they make a mistake or show any weakness at all, it's terrible for them. Who would want to do that and then be underpaid? It's so tough. So I pray for my pastor all the time. I pray for all the pastors on pray.com all the time. It's the toughest job that I can think of. Being in a fishbowl, having all of the problems. And as you grow your organization, as you grow your church, the problems become more and more and more. And you have to be able to stand up to that. Not to mention the attacks from the enemy that increase when you're actually making a change and making a difference in the world. So I would implore everybody on this call who's listening to pray for your pastor, to make sure if you're on a board of a church or you're an elder of a church, that pastor is getting taken care of financially, that's something they don't even have to worry about, so that they can pour into other people's lives. Because if they're worrying about themselves and if they're going to be able to put food on the table, how are they supposed to be able to pour into other people? It's a super tough thing.
So good, man. I concur. My wife and I were missionaries for 22 years, so I know that world well.
Yeah.
I love the permission to fail kind of in the environment of what you're building. It kind of, to me, it's like it's destroying the reality of perfectionism. It's empowering excellence, but it's like just, perfectionism to me it's a manifestation of self-hatred. Like, I'm not enough. I'm not doing it hard enough. And it's just, you're laying this bare to say, hey, we're all going to make a mistake. We're empowering you to take risk. And I think that's the counterpart of this, is you're empowering people to go to the moon. And where they're like, hey, I didn't want to leave orbit. And now it's like, I have permission to really throttle this and go into afterburner mode.
Yeah.
Let's break through the Van Allen belts and get to the moon. If you were talking to a room of people, let's say 100 people, that all had an idea, in the midst of where we are in our economy, where it's who knows what's going to happen, there's fear, there's uncertainty, there's cracks, and people tend to be much more timid in what they want to do in this environment.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to them? They have an idea, whether it's a business, an invention, in the current state of things. What would your encouragement be to them?
I'm probably the wrong person to talk to about that. People think I'm crazy, and I am crazy. I'm a contrarian, Brian. So whatever's going to crash or whatever's going to do the worst, get into that now. I started Homestack in the worst and Homestack is a real estate technology company. I started Homestack in the worst real estate recession of the last 50 years or 100 years, right? We sold things to people who were hurting because it was going to help them once the next cycle picked up. So knowing that things operate on cycles, why wouldn't you get into the thing that is crashing or doing terribly? Because what's going to happen is everyone's going to go and try and get back into that same thing when it's already at the peak or just before the peak, because, genius, oh, real estate's going up, let's get into real estate. It really takes a lot of courage to get into something that is going to crash. And if you can make it work in that time, you can make it work even better on the way up. And just knowing the stat that 9 out of 10 companies fail, whatever you pick, you're at a 10% success rate, no matter what. If you know that already going into it, why not pick something that's going to have the biggest upside where you can have the least amount of competition because everyone's getting out, and go right into this area and build something and surround yourself with people that, their businesses are getting hit super hard, and you can help them, and you can help them more when the market comes back for that industry. I'm not saying pick something that is going to completely go away. Like, don't start a horse and buggy business when cars are coming down the road. But, something that's as simple as real estate. It's always going to be here. It's going to be around for a long time. It's going to crash. It goes on cycles. Why not get into that when it's going down? Especially when even if you pick something that's successful, you still have a 10% success rate based on all the companies. So for me, I would say, crazy enough, Brian, get into something that's crashing. Why not?
Why not? Come on. I love it.
So good. So with all the stuff you're learning about Christian leaders, what are some of the biggest struggles and things we could pray for Christian leaders, in today's time? What are some of the things that you're seeing, and then also what are some of the things you're seeing that God is really doing? Like, for one, I'm seeing a lot of kingdom leaders getting into filmmaking, documentaries, learning to do storytelling in powerful ways, whether it's Sound of Freedom, Jesus Revolution, films on, just different parts of Christianity, and, explaining it and telling it in a good storytelling where you can get into the character and actually care about the character, care about the storyline, and be like, oh, I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, I would say what you could pray for Christian leaders is just pray for grace and understanding. I think as Christians, we fight a lot about theology. We fight a lot about, I call it the sprinkle or dunked, right? There's arguments on baptism. Should you be fully submerged? Should you not be fully submerged? What if we could just come together and get people to a point where they had enough knowledge to even be able to have that argument? I would say, pray for just understanding of kingdom leaders, pray for grace, pray that they have the endurance and persistence to be able to go at a lot of these cultural, political, challenges that all of our churches and leaders and Christian leaders, kingdom leaders are going through right now. You know, there's a lot of things that are coming up in society that make it super tough. And so, you know, Christians and kingdom people are the first ones in a war zone taking care of people. They're the first ones helping the homeless. They're the first ones using volunteers to, you know, make meals and take care of people. They need your help. They need your prayers, whether it's through the media and bringing awareness, or if it's physically on the ground and they've got a church and it's got a food pantry, like a church I was just at, feeds 400 people on Saturdays. People come in, 400 people in their community who would go starving are being fed by this church. They open their doors. They have a whole food pantry. It's a super nice church, and they give back to the community in that way. I think, you know, we've gotta act like Jesus. We gotta give back. We gotta love people. And I think it's just super tough. It's really, really tough. And so the people that are going through some of those challenges, the people that are taking on some of these big problems, you know, we just need to pray for them and help them in any way we can.
It's awesome. Matt, you're a gold mine, man. We really appreciate you taking time for this interview. Love what you guys have built with Pray.com and are continuing to build.
Thank you.
If you aren't on Pray.com, definitely download the app. There's an enormous amount of resources that are super valuable, and my kids love it. So your children will love it as well. And so really appreciate it, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Eric. This has been incredible. Anybody, if you want to be able to reach out and talk to me, just send me an email, matt@pray.com. Super simple. So love what Brian and Eric are doing with Kingdom Brokers, and I think it's incredible.
So Matt, tell us, and just in short, you know, what is the kind of the future of Pray.com? What can people look forward to with audio and video content over the next year or so?
Yeah, we're coming out with some really incredible podcasts that are in the faith entertainment space. So we're going to be doing, I'm not going to reveal what they are, but it's going to be really, really cool. Some of the podcasts that we're coming out with, we're going to hit about probably 100 million downloads of our podcast by next year. So by January 1st. And yeah, we're coming out with some incredible content. Our team is really excited to be partnering with one of the #1 audio providers in the world to bring this cinematic audio experience like it's never been heard before. So that's something that we're coming out with soon. And then multiple languages. So if your first language is Spanish or Portuguese, we're going to have content ready and available for you in the next coming year. We've already got some incredible Spanish content. So just wait. If English is not your first language and you want to, hear the Bible in Tagalog, or you want to hear it in Spanish or Portuguese or some of these other languages, in a cinematic audio experience, we're going to have that available for you soon.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Matt. We honor you, and you guys go on pray.com, follow us, Eric Skeldon and Brian Orme. We got a show on there, and there's some other amazing shows, and man, so much good content. We're excited to partner with Pray, and you guys, this is going to be fun. Well, we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Peace.
Thank you.